Thank you for choosing Moto Nation for your RV rental needs. This is an overview orientation of our Gulfstream Conquest model 63111. We refer to this as the Bunkhouse. It rides on the Ford F450 chassis. It's approximately 32 feet in length, 11 foot 4 inches in height, and 9 foot 4 inches in width. Moving from front to back, I'd like to point out some of the notable features on this side of the RV. First, behind this panel, we have the generator. Here we have storage. Under this panel, you'll find the propane tank with the fill valve and also a gauge to show the propane level. This hatch here is a valve that you don't want to touch. This hatch houses the battery box that holds the house batteries as well as a couple of breakers that we'll get to later. Here we have the city water connection and the sewer flush valve. And below we have access to the black water and gray water tank flush pipe. This hatch houses the outdoor shower. It has hot and cold. This is the electrical connection for connecting to shore power at campsites and RV parks that offer that. Right here, this cap is where you will fill the onboard water tank. The onboard water storage is used when you're not staying in a campground or an RV park that has full hookups, but you might be staying off-grid. If you want to have water to wash your dishes, use your sink, even shower, and use the toilet, you need to make sure that you fill this before venturing out into the wild. Underneath this hatch is your low point water drain. Now you open this up and there are 3 hoses that hang down. I'm not going to demonstrate this, but you will reach up in and there are valves that operate much like your bathroom, the valves underneath your bathroom sink. Now, these are utilized to drain the freshwater tank and the other lines in the RV. Normally, they're going to be closed and you're not going to need to worry about it. But in the event that you were to see water leaking under the RV, especially when you turned on the pump or hooked it up to the city water connection, you're going to want to open this up and make sure that one of those valves hasn't been opened by somebody. Right here is the cable and satellite hookup. Some campgrounds offer cable and satellite to their users. We don't include a cable for this, but you can typically get one either from the campground or from a local store for pretty inexpensive. The fuel fill is here. This RV takes 87 octane or better gasoline. This next hatch is a large storage hatch that you can put whatever you need in. It stays up with a magnet. And right now we have our electrical cable, our freshwater hose, and a few other things stored in there. At the very end, this hatch covers your tankless water heater. Around to the rear of the RV, the only feature that I'm going to point out is the roof access ladder. This access ladder is only designed for maintenance of the air conditioner and other features that are on the roof and is not for rental use. So do not climb this ladder. Do not use this ladder. A fall from the roof could cause serious injury or even be fatal. And it would be very easy for a renter to accidentally damage items on the roof or even break through the roof at certain points. So again, remember, do not use this ladder. On the passenger side of the RV, there's only a few things that I would like to point out. Most of this side, in fact, all of these hatches are all for storage. So you've got storage here, here, and here. Above this, you have a 110 volt receptacle. You have your coach access door. And then moving back, we have 2 more storage hatches that are quite deep, even if the doors to them are not very large. One feature that this RV has that's kind of neat is the power stair. Now, whenever you open up the door, the stair is going to automatically come down. When you close the door, it's going to automatically retract. That way you don't have to worry about hitting objects that are a little higher on the road. Now, in this configuration, the stairs will move up and down whenever you open or close the door. This configuration puts a lot of wear and tear on the motor and on the stairs. And so we prefer the second configuration that is operated by a switch right over here. When the switch is switched into the on position, now it will lock the stairs in the down position, and when you close the door, it will stay down. When you open it, it will stay down. Now you don't have to touch this switch again because it will stay down until the engine starts. The next time the engine starts and you close the door, or the door is already closed, it will automatically retract. But in this configuration, it puts a lot less strain, wear and tear on the stairs, and could avoid a costly repair. This is the shore power electrical connection on the motorhome. To connect to shore power, you're going to take your supplied power cord, you're going to slide it into here, just like this, and twist it to the right to lock it in place. You can tighten down this exterior ring to get a nice solid seal. Next, you're going to run the cord over to the power pole that is at your campsite. You're going to make sure that the breaker on the power pole is switched to the off position. Then you are going to plug in your power cord to the power pole at the campsite and then flip the breaker into the on position. At that point, you should see a little light on top of this power cord glow blue. If it's not glowing blue, then it means that you don't have power supplied to the RV. This is the city water connection. This is where you are going to connect your RV to a campground water supply. This is not where you fill the RV freshwater tank. We have lots of renters that call us up and say, hey, we've been running the water into the city water connection for a half hour, but our tank on the inside of the RV isn't filling up. What's the problem? Well, the problem is you're using the wrong connection. This does not fill the freshwater tank. Now, whenever you're using a city water connection or connecting any hoses to the RV, you must use this pressure reducer. Now, each of the RVs is supplied with one, and all they do is screw in like this, and then you screw your hose into it like so. Once that is in place, then you are safe to turn on the water to the RV. A side note, if you do not have the pressure reducer in place, a lot of campgrounds run at very high water pressure, and the RV is only designed for a rather low pressure point. If you run too high pressure water into the RV, you will blow out all the seals inside the RV and it will start leaking everywhere. So do not install any hoses to the RV without them being connected to a pressure reducer valve. In order to use the water system on the RV, there are a couple steps you have to follow. Number one, if you're in an RV park or another area that has full hookups or has water hookups and you've hooked up the city connection outside, then you don't need to follow the steps that I'm going to show you, because once you're hooked up to the city connection, that connection is live all the time. You don't need to turn on the pump. If you do not have a city connection and you are running off of the water that is in your onboard water tank, your freshwater tank, then you have to follow these steps. First, you want to verify that your freshwater tank has water. In this case, we've got 1/3 of a tank. Next, you're going to turn on your water pump. Now, when you do, you're going to listen for it to turn on. It's going to sound like a little thumping, and then it should stop once the line is pressurized. And you shouldn't hear it turn on again unless you turn on a faucet or unless you turn on the shower. If it doesn't stop, it means that there's a leak somewhere in the line. If you have running water somewhere and the pump is not turning on, then that does not mean that there's a leak from one of the pressurized lines. It means that there could be a leak from a drain, and you would have to address that differently than if the pump just continuously ran. Another reason that the pump could continuously run is if it's running out of water and it's picking up more air than water. That's a good indicator that your water tank is empty. So we're going to turn on the water pump. And in this case, because the line is already pressurized, you're not going to hear anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the kitchen sink. We're going to turn it to the cold, and we're just going to turn this on, and you're going to listen for the pump. Hopefully that comes through on the video. This tank is running low, so you have it sputtering. When I turn this off, you should hear the pump stop. When entering the RV, you're going to notice this red switch. This is the master power control for all the 12-volt systems inside the RV. In order to not drain the battery when the RV is not in use, we typically switch this to off. But when you're using the RV, before any of the systems on the inside of the RV that are connected to the battery will function, it must be turned to the on position. On the inside of the RV, typically above the door, you're going to have two things. One, you're going to have this control panel, and two, this cubby. Typically, you have a packet in here that has owner's manuals and instruction manuals for all the appliances inside of the RV. That's where to find that. You can typically find the RV registration in this as well. This is the control panel that operates all of the 12-volt functions on the RV. You have the awning lights, the step light, the porch light outside, the ceiling light, which controls most of the lights inside of the RV, the water heater, and the water pump. You also have the awning, in and out, the slides, 1 and slide 2. Up here, you have the gray water tank level, the black water tank level, the fresh water, and the battery level. To test these, you put your finger right here and press. This shows that the gray water is empty. The black water is empty. The fresh water is 1/3 full, and the battery is 2/3 full. Now, one thing about these sensors, they are not super accurate. So it may be that you press the black water tank and it shows that it's full, but you know that you haven't used it. It's likely not full. It's just getting a bad signal because something has gotten caught on the sensor. Okay? Same with the gray water. The fresh water is typically the most accurate because it doesn't have other debris in there, and the battery level is going to be very accurate. The other thing that you have is the generator starter and the generator hour meter. Moving inside the RV, we're going to give a walkthrough of the floor plan, the layout, and some of the features of the 63111 bunkhouse. Now, as we move forward in the RV, we have a sofa that folds down into a bed. We have a dinette that also folds down into a bed. Up front, you have the bunk that's over the cab that slides out and converts into a full-size bed. You have a television that swivels out so you can view it from anywhere in the RV. One of the big questions we get asked is, how do you fold these sofas into the bed? And it's really quite simple, but it can be tricky your first time. All you have to do is lift up on this outer edge to about here, push down the back, and then the whole thing will slide down into a bed like this. The seat belts are accessed through this crack for driving. You just have to reach down in there and find them, but they are there. Now, to store the bed again, all you have to do is lift up on the back, and slide it back into place. This RV is equipped with a dinette that converts into a bed. It's not a very long bed, so it's not ideal for adults or tall people, but children or a shorter adult will sleep on this just fine. It converts very easily by pressing down on the table, but there are a couple of tricks that you can use to keep from damaging the table. All you do is take the lever underneath the end of the table here, move it to the unlock position, and gently press on the table near the wall like this, and it will slide down very easily. Now, before I demonstrate putting the cushions on the bed, I'd like to point out this table is not very strong. You should never stand on, sit on, or place heavy objects like suitcases or coolers on this table, because if you do, it is very likely that you will tear the table away from the wall, and then you will not have a table for the rest of your trip, and you will have a very costly repair bill. Now that the table is down, you're simply going to take the cushions and put them back in place, just like so. There's plenty of space for all of them. And then the last one, you're going to slide in just like this, like a little headboard. Moving to the rear of the RV, we have lots of storage, a microwave, a stove, an oven, your kitchen counter and sink with a deep stainless steel sink, lots of storage for pots and pans and utensils, and then a large RV fridge freezer combo. Beyond that, we move into the bedroom portion, which is what makes this 63111 bunkhouse so popular, and that are these bunk beds. Right here we do have a divider that slides across. You unbuckle here and slide it, and then reattach the retaining clip like so. Now moving beyond this, we have another accordion style door that once again has the retaining clip here that you always want to leave attached so you don't lose it. And then this will slide across and give some privacy in the master bedroom. Now we move on to the bathroom. The 63111 bunkhouse has a fully self-contained and enclosed bathroom with a shower. The toilet is right here on the floor. You have a vanity, plenty of room for storage, and a mirror. We have two types of water heaters on our RVs. A tanked water heater, which operates very similar to the water heater that most people have in their house, only with a smaller tank, about 6 gallons, or a tankless water heater. This particular model has a tankless water heater. So this is the procedure for utilizing a tankless. First, you're going to come to the control panel. You're going to turn on the water pump. You're going to hear it pump for a minute and then turn off. That means that the system is pressurized. Next, you will turn on the water heater. You'll hear a beep and you'll see this light up. Now this light doesn't necessarily stay on the whole time, but it does typically indicate when you turn it on that there is power. After you have done these two things, you come over to this panel right here. This is the tankless water heater control. Some people get this confused for the thermostat, for the air conditioner and the heater inside the RV, but that's not what this is. It has several functions. One, it shows the ambient temperature of the water in the tank. As you can see, the water inside this tank is very warm. Then it has an up button. That sets the temperature that you want the water to come out of the tap at. You can lower it by pushing this. In order for the water heater to turn on, the temperature that you want it to be must be higher than the temperature inside the tank. There's also, you can switch between Fahrenheit and Celsius, and then there's a power switch that can actually turn this off. We're going to turn this on. You can then come to any of the sinks within the RV and it will produce hot water. Now, it's a tankless, and they say that tankless water heaters produce instant hot water. In RVs, that's not quite the case. Tankless water heaters actually use a lot of water, and so they're not wonderful if you are camping off-grid and don't have a ready water supply, because it takes quite a little bit of water for it to heat up. Now what you're going to do is you're going to open up this on full hot. Next, you're going to come over to the tankless water heater control, and you're going to see three things. One, that you have good flow. Two, that the cooling fan of the heater is running. And three, that you have flame indicating that it is heating. Then you will see the temperature of the water increasing to the temperature that you have set. You should be able to come over here and put your hand under the water and feel it getting hot. Now it'll go to the temperature that you have set. So it can get really hot, so don't burn yourself. Now, if you do not have a thermostat on the wall somewhere close to this control panel, that indicates that you have a tanked water heater, or a water heater that has a tank, very similar to the water heater at your house. The biggest difference is that it's only about 6 gallons. Now the way to turn on a tanked water heater is, number one, you're going to turn on your water pump. Then you're going to listen for it to stop, and then the water heater, just like that. Once you've done this, set it and forget it. The water heater will be on, and it will be heating until it reaches a temperature, then it will stop. One thing to remember is that if you leave this on, it will just continue to heat and heat the water heater just like at your home, and you'll use a lot of propane. So I suggest, if you're not going to use it, turn it off. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes to heat up. Use it, and then when you're done using it, go ahead and turn it off. This is an RV toilet. It does not operate like your toilet at home. It has water that will help rinse out what's inside of it, and it has a foot pedal. It is very important that you only put RV or marine grade toilet paper in an RV toilet. If you put wet wipes or paper towels or any other kind of toilet paper, it will clog up the toilet. And if we have to unclog one of these systems, unfortunately, you're going to have to get charged, because it's a pain to get that stuff out of the blackwater tank. Now, you're going to flush the toilet, you're going to press this lever on the side, just like that. It's going to open up, and you're going to get water flowing down, and you're going to lift off to close it. A note on these pedals: be very gentle with them. Sometimes the seal can be very strong at the bottom of the toilet, and that's good because it helps keep bad smells from coming in. You can also put a little bit of water, as you can see here, to help keep those smells down in the blackwater tank. But sometimes that seal gets very stiff, and if you start jumping on this pedal to try to get it to open up, you'll break that pedal. And if you're on the road and that pedal breaks, you no longer have a toilet, because those parts are incredibly difficult to get. Now, in the event that your toilet isn't flushing, You open up the flap and you can see that it's clogged. The best way to unclog that is not with a plunger, because these toilets don't operate like a normal toilet. You need to go out and find yourself a stick or find yourself a long object that you can press the pedal down to open up the flap and gently clear out the clog and get it to drop into the tank. Once it's cleared out, take a lot of care that you don't get whatever's on that stick all over the RV, and carefully take that stick and throw it away in the garbage. That can save you some anguish if you were to get a clog. Another tip, don't use a ton of toilet paper. Too much toilet paper can clog these, even marine toilet paper, to where your waste will not drop down the tube. If you use toilet paper sparingly, you will see a better result. Now, as you move to the master bedroom, we have a nice queen-sized bed with shades. We have plenty of storage for suitcases, for clothes, and a wardrobe here as well with some mirrors. This RV is equipped with 2 slides, one in the kitchen and living room area and one in the bedroom. Typically, slide out 1 is the one that is located closest to the front of the RV, and slide out 2 is the one back in the master bedroom. To put out the slides, it's very simple. There's just a couple steps that you need to follow. Number 1, before engaging the slide motors, you have to be sure that there are no obstructions outside of the RV. Sometimes water bottles or refill cups or luggage can fall behind these, and if they do, when you start to put the slide out, it can cause the slide to jump off of the track or crush whatever is going behind there. It's also a good idea to make sure there aren't any kids hiding behind these, because they could get crushed as well. Once you've double checked that there are no obstructions inside the RV, then you are going to go to the control panel and you're going to hit slide out. You're going to hear the slide moving out. It should be uniform, both sides at the same time. As the slide is almost fully extended, you will hear the motor change slightly in pitch. When it does, you let go of the button and you're fully deployed. When deploying the rear slide, it's the exact same process. You want to make sure that there is nothing blocking the outside of the vehicle and that nothing is blocking the inside. It's the same whether you're deploying or retracting the slide. You want to make sure that it's clear. Otherwise, it'll crush whatever's in the way or it'll throw it off the track. So once you're sure that there's nothing in the way and the path is clear, then you hit slide out and you follow the same process. This is going to go out. You're going to listen to the motor until you just hear it change pitch, and then you're going to immediately take your finger off the button. For retracting, you follow the same steps, only in reverse, and you press slide in to let it come in. Again, you're watching to make sure that there's nothing in the way of the slide, and it comes in smoothly and evenly. You're going to wait until you see it almost to the end. The end of the bed should be right there at the end of the cupboards, and you will hear the motor change and you'll take your finger off the button. When deploying the slide with the bunk beds, it's important to note that these privacy curtains hang over the top of the slide. So when you start to put the slide out, about halfway out, you stop. You come over and you pull out these curtains like so. That will allow the slide to continue to move out the rest of the way without getting hung up. The same thing applies for the large slide. Make sure that this area is totally clear, that you don't have any luggage, do not have any kids sitting on any of the couches, and then you're going to go ahead and retract. And just like the one in the master bedroom, you're going to wait till it appears like it's almost all the way in, and you're going to listen for the motor to change tone. You're going to take your finger off and it is fully retracted. One more note about utilizing the slides. This is a very common item in RVs to break. They are very, very expensive, and if they break while they're on your trip, as long as they're functional when they leave our lot, it's on the renter to take care of that. So be very careful with them. Another thing to note is you always want to have the slides deployed on a level surface. You don't want to deploy the slides if the RV is on a hill, either in either direction, front or back or side to side, because it'll put undue stress on the tracks and on the motor. The last bit of advice on the slides is do not allow children to operate the slides unless you don't mind losing your deposit and possibly paying a lot more money. Children should not utilize or should not activate most of the controls on the RV because they don't tend to understand how delicate and how easily some of these systems can break and how people can potentially get injured by them. All of our RVs are equipped with window coverings. Each of them are a little bit different, but this accordion style operates on tension. I'm going to demonstrate that for you now. They have two strings that come down on either side that hold tension to the entire shade. To pull it up, all you do is grab the center and lift. And you can lift it all the way to the top. It will stay wherever you stop it. To pull it down, all you do is pull it down. Now, these can be broken very easily if you're monkeying on them, if you step on one of them, or if you're treating them roughly. If for some reason they won't stay up or go down, you can adjust it right here on these little knobs by tightening and tensioning the string a little tighter. But don't over tighten it, because if you do, you run the risk of pulling these out of the wall. Again, as we've mentioned before, these are not items that you should allow children to adjust, as it's very common for them to break them, and then you'll have an expensive repair bill to deal with. If your RV is equipped with an awning, the control will be located at this control panel right here. In order to send the controller out, you push this direction to out. In order to retract it, you press this direction for in. Now, RV awnings are one of the most common items that break on the RV. So we recommend that you don't use the awning unless you absolutely have to. And then if you do use the awning, you must follow a couple of rules. First, never put the awning out unattended. Even if it's for 5 minutes, do not leave the awning unattended. Second, always make sure that there are no obstacles around the awning when it is being extended. Third, never ever put the awning out unless the day is very, very calm. Even the slightest amount of wind will quickly tear the awning off or damage the awning beyond repair. And awning repairs are very costly, typically ranging between $2,000 and $2,500 per awning. We're going to put out this awning now. So first we're going to open up the door and we're going to lean out and check for obstructions. Next, we're going to press the out button while we are watching the awning extend. We're watching to see if either of the arms on either end of the awning get caught or hung up or don't come out evenly. In the event that they get stuck or don't come out evenly, all you have to do is go out and typically shake the support that isn't coming out properly, and it will typically release and start going in sync with the other arm. If that doesn't happen, then press the retract button, bring the awning in tight again, and try it again. If you can't get the awning to go out, rather than risk damaging the awning, it's better to leave it and let us take care of it when you get back. In order to heat and cool the RV, you utilize this thermostat. Now, the heater will operate off of the 12-volt batteries. The air conditioner, on the other hand, must run on 120 power. So the RV must be plugged into shore power, or it must have the generator running in order to function. Now, to turn on the air conditioner, you're going to push this bar and you're going to watch until it comes to cool. This says cool high, and you're going to wait, and you'll hear the AC turn on. Now, to turn the AC temperature down, you're going to push there, down. To turn it up, you're going to push it up. Another important thing to note about RV air conditioners is that they are not as efficient as the air conditioner in your car or in your house. They can only cool to about 17 to 22 degrees below the ambient air temperature. So by doing simple math, if it's 110 degrees outside, the RVAC is only going to cool the inside of this coach to about 90 degrees. That's the best you're going to get until the sun goes down and the outside air starts cooling off. Before we get into the heating side, I want to show you something about the AC. Follow me. This unit here is the air handler unit, and it functions in two ways. You can open up these vents and the air will blow down into this area of the RV, which is the living room. If you have a lot of people that are hanging out in this area right here, you can open up those vents and it will cause this area to cool much more quickly. At night though, however, when you're trying to go to bed, the air coming out of the AC will only be cooling this area here. So people in the master bedroom will be getting very hot. Anybody sleeping up there will also be getting very warm. So at night, you want to close these, and that will force the air to come out of the vents in the ceiling here and up front. You can angle these vents in the direction that you want to direct the air. We get a lot of calls from people that tell us that their AC isn't working because they can't feel any air in the master bedroom or up above the cab. And 9 times out of 10, it's because these vents are open and not closed. In cooler temperatures, you may want to heat the RV, and that is also done from the same thermostat. You're going to come to the same bar, you're going to press it, you're going to cycle through the fan, the cool, and you're going to come all the way down to heat. You're going to set your temperature that you want it to heat to. That's got to be warmer than the inside temperature. Because we're warm right now, looks like we will be able to get it up high enough. There we go. We're going to set it to 99 degrees. Now you're going to wait a second. You're going to hear a fan turn on, and then you're going to listen for the burner to ignite. Again, the heater runs off of propane. So before turning on the heater, you do want to make sure that your propane valve has been turned on. Now you're going to go to one of the floor vents, of which there's one right here. You're going to reach down and you're going to feel if there is warm air coming out. If there's warm air coming out, it means that the heater has ignited and is functioning properly. If the heater doesn't ignite properly, then it's going to automatically shut itself off in order to protect from too much propane gas getting into the coach. If for some reason the heater doesn't turn on, the propane is also turned on, and you've cycled through it several times, you can reach out to us for some tech support and we can give you some advice on how to get it running again. RV stoves operate on propane. I'm going to demonstrate how this stove lights and how it operates. The first step that you need to do is you need to make sure that the propane is on. And you do that by going outside to the propane tank and checking that the valve is open. To turn the propane on, you turn this knob all the way counterclockwise until it stops. You don't want to stop in the middle. It's either all the way on or all the way off. Once you know that you have the propane on and the lines are pressurized, you're going to turn on the fan. You're going to listen for it to start. Now this fan helps to remove bad smells as well as propane gas and carbon monoxide. You never want to have the stove on without operating this fan. It's also a good idea to open up the window above the sink just to get a little bit better ventilation. You do that by pulling up here, flipping this up, and opening the window. Now that you've got plenty of ventilation, you come over to the stove, you turn the knob to high, and then you use the lighter to click. You go to the next one, lighter to click, and this one, lighter to click. They should start very quickly. If they don't, then what you're going to do is turn on the knob to high and listen to see if you can hear any air or gas. If you smell propane and you can hear it coming out when it's on high, but you cannot get it to light, you want to stop. You're going to leave the fan running, open up the window, possibly open up the door, let the RV air out for a few minutes before trying to light the stove again. Now, before you want to light the stove again or attempt it, you're going to check that the spark jumps when you click the igniter. You're going to look underneath the upper lip of the burners and you're going to twist the igniter just like this. You should see a little blue spark jump from this steel rod right here over to the side of the burner. If you're not seeing that when you try to ignite, then you need to try to ignite it using a match or a cigarette lighter or some other means. You would turn on the stove and you would use a match or cigarette lighter to try to light it. If the stove lights, then you know that the igniter is malfunctioning. From that point on, just use a match or a cigarette lighter to utilize the stove and let us know when you come back. Each of our RVs is equipped with a refrigerator-freezer combo. They operate a little bit differently than the one that you're going to find in your house. They're not quite as powerful, but they're pretty efficient. Now, ours all run on 12-volt power. The older model refrigerators used to run on propane, but now more and more RVs are making the switch to 12-volt because of the efficiency and the simplicity of these units. Now, primarily, the freezer freezes and the refrigerator pulls air from the freezer to cool to a little bit higher temperature than the freezer does. Now there is a setting inside the freezer, usually at the back, and this one here. It goes colder, closes off the vent and keeps the freezer colder. And if you turn it to cold, it opens the vent in the rear and lets more cold air go down into the refrigerator. Moving to the refrigerator, as you can see, there's ample room for a weekend, and these refrigerators are designed to keep your food cold and fresh for the duration of your trip, as long as you have 12-volt power are hooked up to shore power at some point, running the engine or running the generator. That's all it takes to recharge the batteries on these refrigerators. Now the controls for the refrigerator are right here. 1 is for the warmest setting and 5 is for the coldest. You're going to change that by pressing the set button until you reach the temperature that you desire, and it should keep that. Now, if the light ever starts to blink or it keeps moving down to a lower setting, that is an indicator that you are running low on battery power, and at that point you should start the engine of the RV, you should start the generator, or you should connect to shore power to recharge the batteries.